In this video, we are going to take a look at how to model holes on polygonal objects. And we're also going to look at situations where you might not actually want to model that detail, but add it in as a texture instead. So I have a few examples here. This is the colander, and this is a vent in an arcade machine. In both of these situations, you would not actually model all this detail. The first reason is that these holes there are quite a few of them, and they're in a complex pattern. It wouldn't be very efficient to model this in because maintaining this mesh and making sure the flow of the edges and the faces is clean on a surface like this, especially because this is also a curved surface, would be very challenging. So in cases like this, you would just add this as a texture and you would use something called an opacity map. We're not going to be looking at the opacity map in this video, but instead I'm going to show you where you would actually model these indentations on mesh. So in this case, we have a situation where it would be nice to model this. One reason is because we can consider modeling it is that it is just a singular indentation. It would be fine to model this in. Another reason we are modeling this is also because this has a very, very visible thickness to it. So you can see as it indents inwards, you can kind of see the thickness of that indentation. On these surfaces, the surface is a lot thinner. In this case, you just have darkness behind it. Like if it doesn't have thickness, you won't be able to see it, because that is a consideration we have to take in, because if we add this as a texture, you're not going to be able to see the thickness. So that's something to keep in mind when thinking about whether you would like to model this detail or texture in it. I'm going to start with a cube. So I'm going to go to my poly modeling menu and create a cube. Now let's make it bigger so it kind of matches the shape. Okay, let's do this. And now let's actually section out the area where we want this hole to be. So let's say we're putting it kind of in this section right here. So I'm going to just insert just one. So to insert this edge loop, what I did is shift right click and insert edge loop tool, and then I just inserted an edge. It's going to remain on this tool until you exit it. So to exit the tool, you just hit Q on your keyboard or you hit this cursor key. So I am going to now look at this further. The next thing we want to do is we want to add a few more edges so that we have enough resolution to actually create something that's circular shape. And when you're creating anything that has curves like the circular shape here, it's usually nice to add a few more edges than you think you will need, because adding more edges later becomes a little bit challenging. So let's see how we can do this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this mesh up a little bit more. You can use the insert edge loop tool again, but there's another tool that I like to use to make it a little cleaner. And to do that, you have to select an edge. So let's say we're cutting this edge in half, and then control right click to bring up this different menu. Go to edge ring utilities and then go to to edge ring and split. That splits that edge in half. Let's do that to this as well. So now if I want to repeat my previous action, so I just use the edge ring and split, I'm going to hit G and that's going to repeat the action. Let's divide this up a few more times. So I'm going to divide each of these divisions into just another division. So now I have, I think, enough edges to create this circular shape. So I am going to, let's see, where do I want to create this? Let's offset this inwards, kind of, because this circular shape is more inwards. So I'm going to select all these faces, select one face, shift double click, and do the same till you select all of them and shift right click, extrude face. And then we don't want to add thickness, we need to add the offset, which like brings those faces inwards. You'll notice that if I do too much of this, it's going to kind of cave in on itself. So we're going to just add a little bit of offset, and we're going to do the rest with the scale tool. So we're just going to R on the keyboard and scale it inwards. So now we have this nice rectangular shape, which we need to make circular. So to do this, shift right click and circularize components. And once you do that, you have a nice circular face. You want to play with the twist because this is not great, so we want to straighten those edges out. And now you have a circular face within this cube. The next thing you are going to do is maybe extrude this downwards because you can see that you have some thickness here. So shift right click, extrude face, and then just push this downwards. Now we have achieved the main shape of this object. So we basically have what we have here. But whenever you're creating surfaces like this, you always want to make sure that you add bevels or supporting edges to this. So right click and go to edge mode. And let's see, let's add, maybe we can let's select this. And let's shift right click, bevel edge. And let's add 2 segments. And for this one, let's go to face mode, extrude face, and add a little bit of an offset. Let's reduce that, maybe 0.03, let's say. Then let's add an edge on the other side as well. So for supporting edges, whenever you're creating them, you want to make sure that you have 2 edges supporting your main edge. So this is our main edge, then you have one on the top and one on the bottom. So that's usually what you want to do. And let's see. So if we go to the smooth mode, which is 3 on the keyboard, you can kind of see that it looks really weird. So we might need to add more supporting edges. So let's do that. We've supported our circle. That looks pretty good. If you go to object mode, you can see that the circle looks pretty good. It's supported. Let's do the same for everything else. So insert edge loop tool. Let's add edges here. And now this part becomes a little bit tricky because you do want some supporting edges here. But if you do add them, let's try adding a supporting edge here. You will see that your circle kind of gets these indents on them, which you don't want. So if you want to fix that, what you need to do is you need to make sure that these edges that you add do not touch this circle at all. So we are just going to add those supporting edges in that area. So what we can do here is let's make sure that everything's okay. So this mesh is good. Let's go back to non-smooth, so 1. And let's click on this, shift double click, click on this, shift double click. Okay, so now we are going to shift right click and bevel edge. And let's set this to 0.009, so a really small value, maybe a little more, 0.03. And then we're going to add segments to this. So if we add 2 segments, we can kind of make this into a quad of its own. So that is good. Let's see how this looks. So this is not bad. We are getting there. This should be fine. So 2 segments for now. But if you go to vertex mode, you'll notice that this face right here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertices. So we need to fix that. To do that, I am going to use the multi-cut tool, and we are going to fix this. And this is the same for all of these faces wherever we added the bevel. So this face right here. So we're going to fix all of them. So let's shift right click and go to multicut. If you hold down control, you will be able to kind of create an edge, almost an edge. You'll see it doesn't go all the way around. That's because of this face that has 5 sides. So I'm going to create this with the multicut. So we have this right now. And then I am just going to connect this. So then I'm just going to click on this vertex and then click on this vertex and click enter to connect them. So I'm just left clicking to create those vertices. All our faces have 4 sides or less, and we can clean this up so that we get a cleaner shape. So we can just select this, select shift double click to select this one, and then use the scale tool, so R, and then just scale it in that direction to clean this up. Here is the final shape. So I just added some additional edges and made sure everything was clean throughout. And now everything is well supported. All the corners are supported. The circular shape is supported. And we have clean topology throughout the object. If I hit 3 on the keyboard, you can see that it smooths out pretty nicely and we don't really have any artifacts. One last thing I want to mention is that you will see some videos that mention using mesh booleans for adding holes in objects, and this is way you can do this. But when you're just starting out, this a lot of times creates geometry that is difficult to work with and difficult to clean up. So doing it manually and kind of knowing where you're cutting stuff out and where you're adding vertices really helps when you're getting started out. And when you get a little more advanced in the software, you can look into booleans and how to use these tools.